Okay, we should be recording now. All right, we have several guests tonight. We got Chris Johnson, Jessica Sullivan, Tyler Bauer, Justin Cullen, and Stacy McIntyre. We'll just take you in that order as the way that you checked in tonight. So, Chris, we're open for public input. Go right ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. Calling you live from Walmart parking lot. So kind of bear with me here, guys. My wife's grocery shopping. So it's not too much of a secret why at least I'm here and most of the people are here. To be 100% honest, we're all in a rough spot right now where we don't really know what things are going to look like in the future. People are worried about food. People are worried about just honestly the nature of what the future is going to hold. And I personally would think that there's a way that we can responsibly as a community have poultry and like chickens and animals in order to us to empower ourselves to have our own food in a food source. But I think there's also a way we can do it responsibly to where we are not going to cause, a noise or an odor nuisance. So I just would like to ask the board members, ask everyone there just to, you may already kind of have an idea of what you feel on the subject. I know that you guys might have had this in the past. And in the past, it might not have been as successful, right? Because there were possibly different rules or regulations. And I'm not sure if that's the case. But what I would ask is you just kind of keep an open mind and just think of the situation that we are all in right now. Personally, my wife and I, between the two of us, every day eat 6 eggs. And we've done that for about 2 years, and we're having a really hard time getting those eggs. So it would be very beneficial to me and my family, and me being able to provide for my family if I had the means to produce my own eggs down the road. So that's kind of my whole gist, and I was here last week. I did send Caleb and Fred I think it was a copy of Pekin's ordinance and a couple things that I wanted to include too. I don't know if you guys have seen that or if that's even been provided to any of you, but if you guys have any questions for me, I'm more than willing to answer them. But then once again, I just wanted to say thank you guys for listening to me, and I appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Does anyone have any questions for Chris?
Nope.
All right. Before we move on, we had someone else join our meeting. The person that just joined our meeting, could you identify yourself, please, so we can get it in our minutes? Well, it looks like they've gone away. All right. Jessica Sullivan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm just backing what Chris said.
Okay. You are in favor of the village considering an ordinance on having chickens in the village limits?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Tyler Bauer, would you like to comment?
We're just in agreement on it. I mean, it's getting to the point now where it would have been nice, obviously, previously to have it, being that egg prices are skyrocketing because of supply and demand, and not to mention the chicken area. I mean, other than roosters, they're pretty quiet compared to some of the dogs here in town, I'd say. So I'm definitely in favor of it.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Tyler? Justin, would you like to weigh in?
I'm in agreement on it. As far as with, if, being my girlfriend has roosters and hens on the outskirts of Tivoli, and the only nuisance they bring is the roosters sometimes get a little loud, but I'm in agreement with the previous guys, Tyler and Chris, as far as the times that are going on right now. who knows when things are going to get back to normal and be able to get our own food from a grocery store. As far as she has hens and everything that produce eggs, and that's our main supplier of eggs as of right now. So I'm in agreement with it, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay, any questions for Justin? And then Stacy, I think you're the last one on our list here of people that want to comment on this.
She actually is on another phone call right now, but I think she just is agreeing with what all of us have said about the chickens.
Okay. I've got a couple of questions for all of you who are in favor of allowing chickens within the village limits. What do you think would be some good regulations to put on them? Would you still be willing to do this if there were where you would have to register that you have chickens in the village so that they can be inspected? Would you how do you enforce something like this? Do you let them just run around your yard? Do they have to be in coops? What are your suggestions on how this can be done?
Can I speak? Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, let's
Go ahead, Chris.
Let's go with Chris first.
Okay, I was just gonna say I'm all for registering my chickens. I don't have a problem with that. Because I think one of the big concerns most people have is, most communities have is, are we going to keep it clean and is it going to be safe for the community? So I have no problem if somebody wants to make sure that, my chickens in my coop are, in a cage, they're not going to get out. They're not going to, kids can't sneak into them or touch where any feces would be, things like that. I don't have a problem with that personally. And then I was also going to say, I don't feel in our situation free range necessary is probably going to work in my situation just because I live on 116. So I don't want people hitting my chickens at 60 miles an hour. So personally, I wouldn't have a problem with them having to be caged in. I mean, they can be in like a yard area, but I feel like they still need to be caged. Personally, that's my thoughts. But everyone else might have any different opinions.
All right. Tyler, you have a comment?
I agree with the fully caged thing, just because, they're quick on their feet and they actually get out. But as far as that goes, we can kind of mimic some of the local cities that already do allow them. I know Chris had showed me the Pekin ordinances, and they look pretty fair in my opinion. Registering that you have them, I don't think is such a bad idea. It kind of helps keep track as well if something were to happen. And then, basically from there, yeah, I wouldn't do any free range or anything like that just because it'd get out of control, I think. And that's all.
Does anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I would like to, Justin. We have, my girlfriend and I have, I think about 12 hens and 3 roosters and a turkey out on a property where we board our horses, and we have them kenneled. I built basically a souped up, like a better word, souped up a dog kennel. Made it to where no animals can get into it, and the chickens and everything can't get out, and it's maintained regularly. Every 2 to 3 days we're out there cleaning, rebedding, doing the normal maintenance on the animals themselves. And I'm in agreement with both Tyler and Chris as far as the free range, and it's in agreement with and registering that we have them and all that. But as far as
All right, you're getting too far away. We can barely hear you now.
making sure that it's a safe environment basically for neighbors and all of them. That aspect, I feel, is kind of, a good point to, bring across, just to make sure it's not something that, somebody's going to be able to let it get out of hand. Get too many hens, too many chickens, too many, anything where they can't handle them anymore.
Okay. Jessica or Stacy, do either one of you want to comment? You're muted. Okay. No other comments? All right. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. It comes up later on in our agenda, but what we will do is I will form a committee to actually write us an ordinance to consider, and then we will go from there. All right?
Okay.
Does anyone else have any final thoughts or statements they'd like to make before we go on with our meeting?
I got one question.
Who's that, Tyler?
I don't know the process time on that. Yeah, Tyler. I don't know the process time on that, but what's the idea of just kind of, mimicking, I guess, just what Beacon does, because they have it pretty well set up. We're looking at the local cities, and they have a pretty good set standard over there that would kind of actually be good for us too. I think they don't allow roosters as well, just because of noise. But possibly looking at that, just because right now is the perfect time frame to obviously get started with something like that. And we don't want to pass this and a bunch of people trying to do it over winter. I just don't think is a healthy idea.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we can't just pass something if we don't have it written down of what we're going to pass.
Right.
So I will form a committee and have them look at different ordinances that other communities have and put one together that they think would fit our community. And we will have it on our agenda for our next meeting in June.
All right. That sounds good.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. I'm going to go go help my wife with some groceries. So thank you for the time and have a great day, guys.
All right. Thank you for your input.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. We are down to number 3, approval of our minutes from our May 5th meeting. And it looks like all of our guests have left. So you should have received a copy of the minutes with your board packet or before. Are there any corrections or changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve our minutes of our May 5th meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Frixell, second by Johnson.
Did Tony join the meeting?
What'd you say, Myrna?
I didn't know Tony was at the meeting. I hadn't seen him come in.
Yep. He joined us right after the pledge.
Okay, and who seconded it?
Johnson. All right, any further
Thank you.
discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right, I think that was everybody. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Treasurer's report. I don't think you received a copy of the treasurer's report in the board packet. It was just finished today. So I'll let Deanna kind of weigh in on that because she looked at the bills and approved the bills. So I'll let her.
Yeah, there was nothing else, nothing on there out of the ordinary this time. basically Silco bills and all of our transfers into the IEPA loan and the lagoon savings. Just
All
the
right.
typical, there was nothing out of the ordinary.
I had one question. I did get a copy of it, Fred.
Okay, yeah, Lori
I did get a
did mail
copy.
that out to you guys, so.
Okay. There's one for Blue Tarp Credit Services. I didn't know what that was for.
Credit services. I don't remember off the top of my head. Mm,
2 payments of $985.
Oh, that was something for the lagoon, wasn't it?
Yes, those were Northern Tool, the pumps.
Yeah,
Okay. It just came across weird. That's why I was wondering.
yeah. And on the second page of that was a copy of the minutes where we had approved that.
All right. I will entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report and to pay all outstanding bills.
So moved.
Second.
Hoopengarner made the motion and Johnson seconded. Any further discussion? All right, roll call it. Hoopengarner,
Yes.
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 all right. Motion carried, all ayes. Myrna, if you got that?
Yes.
Okay, we're down to number 5, engineers report. Before Brandon comes on here, I just want to, I don't know if this is a good place to talk about this, Brandon, before you come on or not, but as you guys have probably heard, there is a lot of federal stimulus money out there that is being made available to communities to kind of jumpstart the economy. I was looking at a couple of the infrastructure grants that are out there. And Brandon, I asked Brandon if he'd talk just a little bit about that. One of the, there is a lot of stimulus money out there right now to help with infrastructure. And so I asked Brandon, you know, if there was some way we could put together a grant application to take advantage of this. The biggest problem that we have with this is we don't have anybody to write the grant, and we have a short time frame. There's a fast track grant that makes available 500,000 up to, I think it's 2 million in a fast track grant. That the grant has to be submitted by June 15th, and you have to begin your construction within 90 days. The other infrastructure grant is a little bit longer time frame. Again, it's I think that one's up to $5 million for that grant, but it has to be submitted by June 30th, and again, a short time frame of being able to start that within 90 days of being accepted by the grant. The problem that we have is we don't have any projects ready to go. This would be a great one for our water tower, but there's no way that we can get bids and get it submitted, find somebody to write the grant, and put it all together by June 15th or June 30th even. So I asked Brandon, what can we do? Is there some way we can take advantage of this? And Brandon, I think I'll let you take it from there.
Thanks, Fred. I'm gonna put my video on just so you can feel like I'm talking to you guys, without distraction. Yeah, to reiterate just a little bit of what Fred said, as you might imagine, there's a lot of interest and activity in the grants that are available. It's complicated. There's a lot of overlap. I think I have a handle on at least most of it, but essentially there's about $80 million that the DCEO has made available through about 4 programs. A couple of them really don't apply. One of them is much more brownfields and environmental remediation. Another one is tied into regional economic development. But there are 2 that Fred had mentioned. There's about $50 million, the Rebuild Illinois, and then a subset of that they announced last week. They took 25 of that 50 million for fast track projects. Get your project in by June 15th. They want it under construction in 90 days. So if you don't have a design or a permit, you're not going to be under construction in 90 days. The criteria for these are very much job creation, project readiness, how many people can you put to work, and how fast can you get them to work. So being ready and having something on the shelf is really what this is for. The fast track one is really for those projects that were canceled because of fear. They're trying to pump money into the communities so that you can do those projects that you canceled, that you were already going to do this summer. But no, there's no free lunch. They're going to be very competitive, but writing the grants and submitting them hurriedly to try to meet that criteria. We reviewed it. I wish this was an answer for you. I just don't think that it is. Certainly, if you would like to move forward, we'd be happy to help you. We are working with a subcontractor who writes grants on these to submit for many of our other communities who do have projects on the shelf. It's going to be very competitive. Fred, I don't know if you joined the phone call on Friday or here today.
I did. Yes.
They said on Friday there were over 600 people on the call. I'm sure today was probably similar. So you can imagine that there's much interest in doing this. So with that said, I guess you maybe have some decisions to make as if you would like to go forward. I think your chances are low. Certainly with a water tower project. Other things that might come into play, sewer lining, you don't need a permit, but that doesn't employ very many people. For those of you who remember when we did that a few years ago, it was only about 6 guys working. So that doesn't score very high. The economic tie-in for sewer lining is probably a weak argument. Where a water tower, I think you have a stronger argument. So I'm not sure that you have a shovel-ready project that could go to make it worth the expense of writing a grant, which I'm going to guess would be in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $7,000 to submit to a highly competitive program that may or may not fit. So Fred, those are my comments on grants. I don't know if you want me to continue to go with planning or stop and talk about the grants at all.
Right. The only thing that I will add to that is, Brandon mentioned that we, DCEO, had a couple of webinars this past week. One was Friday and one was today, kind of explaining the grant process and how it was going to be scored and all of that. And I agree with Brandon. Some of those we would score very well on, but we don't have a project that is ready to, that is shovel ready. I talked with Jim and Brandon about lining. That's something that we don't need to get permits for, or a lot of engineering to do. We've already done a third of the town. I was hoping to get the other part of the town ready. Again, scoring wise, like Brandon said, it's not going to score very high because it's not an immediate need and it's not going to create a lot of jobs. And so we'll talk about the SEDS scoring that we did when Kyle was here later on in the meeting. I sent you that information of how we scored on that grant and that. But I agree with Brandon. I wish we had a project that was ready to go that we could take advantage of this, because this would be a good way for us to capitalize on that. And so since we don't, I asked Brandon, what do we need to do so that we don't, so that we're not in this situation again? There have been several times when they've called for what they call shovel-ready projects. And we've never been able to take advantage of it because we've never got anything ready to go. So I asked Brandon to kind of talk about that and what we can do so that we are ready if there becomes another stimulus package down the road that we can take advantage of. So Brandon?
Right. Thanks, Fred. I think, and no one can predict the future. This is my personal opinion, but I don't think this is the last of this. I think economic stimulus, job creation, getting back on the feet, using public funds is going to be a thing for a little bit. I don't think that come June 30th that there's going to be no more of these. So what can you do to put yourself in a position, whether it be, late this summer or for the next couple of years? Public assistance is available out there for either special grant programs like this or even some of the low interest EPA loan money, USDA money. There are grant opportunities, and even some of the old fashioned write it into a bill stuff that doesn't happen quite as much as it used to. But to like Fred said, get that phone call to what do you have ready on the shelf. So what can you do to get yourself prepared? One of the things that I've talked about in the past is, and I think you guys have done a fantastic job of, as you've looked at growth and expansion and annexation of properties, you've put yourself in a position now with respect with the TIFs and the BDD, economic preparedness, economic planning. How can you plan to assist growth, whether it be an industrial park or residential opportunities or even infill in your community? So you've done a great job with that. The other thing that goes hand in hand with that we've talked about is infrastructure planning. And that means a lot of things to a lot of people. In big communities, City of Peoria, for example, they have an annual capital improvement plan where they have their 25 projects or 50 projects. Is it a 1-year thing? Is it got to be done 2 years from now, 5 years, 20 years from now? And every year they shuffle those around, and it's public works and the city administrators working with the council people to try to arm wrestle for the capital projects that are going to be done next year. But they have a plan. They know what needs to be done. It's prioritized. There's cost estimates. Sometimes there's a design. Sometimes we know the design is next year and the bidding and maybe grant opportunity is 3 years from now. But there's a public infrastructure plan, and that's what we do. We can do that very, very simply. I made the comment that there's a public infrastructure planning plan in Jim's head. It's in there, and he knows what he needs to do, and he knows what his wish list is, and what's more important than others. How do we get that out? How do we get your input? How do we get maybe some public input if needed? How does it impact the budget? Do assessments of your systems, and to way oversimplify, you've got a road, a water, and a sewer system. You've done a great job with the roads. I think your scanning that you're doing, the MFT increase, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on that. You have a vehicle to do that. Other communities do more, but I think you're doing okay there. But looking at your water and sewer systems, both the distribution, the storage, the treatment, and the collection system, to do an assessment and say, where do we need to think about spending money with respect to existing infrastructure and future growth? Doing a study, doing planning, identifying something at a level that works for you gets you in a position to say, this is part of our plan. That's a big part of these grants. Show us where it was part of your plan. Show us where you've done a study to justify needing a new tower. Show us the design for the tower. Show us the permit for the tower. And in a perfect world, you've got a contractor bid and ready to go on this particular one. So maybe to begin to take those steps so that you can be ready for the next one would be something you might consider doing. We can take a baby step, and what I might recommend is just sitting down with the committees and the water and sewer, Jim and his staff, and saying, what do we need to do? I wouldn't want to do any computer modeling. I wouldn't want to do too much detail because I'm not sure that fits for you guys. We'd certainly love to do it. You could do all kinds of modeling of your water system, but I think that your money might be better spent in a letter report with a list that you could come up at budget time and decide then, is the water tower your highest priority? Because designing one is an investment. Think about things that are typical design costs are maybe 6%, 8% of the cost of infrastructure. If that's $1 million tank, you could be looking at $60,000, $80,000 worth of design and construction administration costs. That's a big bite that needs to be done if you're going to get a water tower. I think you would want to know, where does that fit? So for a fraction of that, to help you develop a plan, can we help you look at infrastructure planning the same way you're looking at economic planning? And that's what I'd be happy to sit down and talk with committees or with you here tonight on how we can do that at a level that fits your needs. I don't want to come in with a too big a hatchet here or a shotgun approach. I think it can be targeted and minimal and focused so that you have literally a spreadsheet with 5 water projects, 5 sewer projects, and where do they fit in your short, medium, and long-term plans. And then you can begin to pick at those, prioritize those, fund those, and plan for these opportunities in the future. That's what I got.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. Several years ago, we did kind of a comprehensive community plan, which, we included some of our wish list of some things that we wanted to do. On there was the water tower, on there was sidewalks, some street items and things like that. We did that plan, and we budgeted a certain amount of money each year towards some of those projects, but we never took it to the next step of actually doing the engineering, doing the thing to get them ready. I know as we worked through that comprehensive plan, and as we did worked with Tri-County on our sidewalk upgrade, some of the areas that we determined was a need was, a sidewalk leading out to Dollar General, because there are a lot of people who walk and bike out to Dollar General, and our sidewalk stops there at McAllister Road. It doesn't go all the way across there. So, that takes engineering, that takes going to the next step besides just the comprehensive and community plan that we did. So, what Brandon is proposing is that we take that next step, that we start taking some of these projects that we identified in our comprehensive plan and go to the next level and get them ready so that when these opportunities come around, we can at least take advantage of some of those. I'm opening it up now to the board. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have a plan together.
All right, Bill, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Bill.
We got projects started like the roads and so forth, sewer roads, but we don't have one for sidewalk. We ought to get a fund started for sidewalks other than just depend on what we appropriate every year.
Right. And we've started that with the Tri-County. We've started assessing our sidewalks, and so now it's a matter of taking it to the next level. But you're right.
That's what I mean. Putting money into a fund every year, like we do for the rails or trails, the side for the streets and alleys. A fund for that, and be putting money into that every year, so we have some money there to work with.
All right. Caleb?
Yeah, I mean, I think having a plan like that, a real simple plan, like I agree with Brandon. I don't see us needing any modeling or anything crazy like that, but just like he said, the different departments and and what's kind of a hit list, a 5-year hit list or something. And as far as Bill with the fund, yeah, I mean, what you appropriate every year is not going to be enough to do any kind of legitimate. I mean, what we appropriate every year is patching and replacing occasional, squares of sidewalk. We could still use that road fund for that and just use it for both, because honestly, if we do any sizable sidewalk project, that might be our project for the year, depending on how big we want to go with it, So we could use that road fund that we're setting aside money, and if you have that list of projects you need to do, like Brandon talked about, then you know what that fund's going to be used for. I would almost just expand it out and say that it's going to be sidewalks too. And if we want to put a little bit more in it because we use it for more, then do that as maybe opposed to making another one. But yeah, I agree with Bill. You can't, what we appropriate a year isn't going to be enough to do any sizable project. One way or another, we got to change that. Because yeah, go to Dollar General would be great. Honestly, I'd love to see us start at Murphy Road and go all the way through town to Dollar General and make that a 7-foot curbside sidewalk, because it's so narrow in places now. You feel like you're going to get decapitated by trucks when they come by with their big mirrors hanging out.
Yeah.
And that sidewalk gets you so much. I think that would be a bang for your buck project if we could. It would take years to do it. We'd have to plan it out in the future and, you know, plan a budget, but that would be a project that would get a ton of use.
Anyone else have a comment?
I kind of feel like the water tower project's been something that we've been kicking down the road for a lot of years now. And we need to go another level on it and not just discuss it every couple of months, what we're gonna do next. We need to get steps in order and say, okay, this is the next one that we need to do now, that this is what is important to us right now to get done in order to us to get us to the next level. And we need to start setting those goals and meeting them instead of just keep kicking it down year after year after year, and we're getting nowhere. All we're doing is talking about it, but we're not really doing anything. We're setting money aside for it, but we're not going anything any farther than that.
Right. And I agree. Part of the problem is, are we willing to spend the money to go to that next level?
I think we're going to have to. If we want to get any of these grant money, we've got to go to the next level. If we keep missing out year after year after year, we're never going to get anywhere.
If getting money for the water tower means being shovel ready, correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, we probably have enough money. We have over 100 grand in that account. I mean, that would get us most professional services we need to be designed. And
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, Cale. I've got to think so. Unless you had a curveball with needing property, or you tied this into a water main expansion, which probably should be thought about. If all of a sudden you put a tower that's really big and really tall, what's that going to do to your existing system?
Yeah.
And so, you know, what could happen there is it could snowball on you, and that's what maybe should be studied, along with if you're going to serve all of that area out to the west, is your existing system capable to do that? I would hate to see you put a big old tank on that couldn't serve half your community. So that's the study part of it. But yes, absolutely, I can't think that a water tower could be designed for well under what you put away.
Yeah. So we could get to the next step with not taking any financial hit. The money's sitting there for that purpose. I mean, we know we'll never build it. If we're going to save money to that account and build a tower, we'll have it done in 50 years, but we know we're going to have to take a loan or something to get it built. But what that fund would be good for is we wouldn't have to touch the general fund or take any hit off on normal spending. There's enough there to cover, everything to get to that next step.
Okay, so I think I really think that is our next step, is to try to get an infrastructure planning put together. And I think what we need to do is ask Brandon to kind of give us an idea of what he thinks it's going to cost us and the length of time it's going to take to do that. And so we can make a decision of moving forward on that. But I really think that is something that needs to be done, because I really feel like for the next couple of years, there might be some stimulus money out there to keep us moving forward on that.
Fred, if I might interject, I think I would be happy to do that. But what I would, again, I think it might be worthwhile to, however, whether it be in person or virtually, kind of scope out the level of assessment you would like with the committee, superintendents, yourself, whomever would want to be involved. How much could you do? How much should we do? so that I can bring to you a proposal with a number on it that is, not too hot and not too cold, but exactly the right size for what you're wanting to do. If we could do that, as opposed to me guessing. But I would welcome the opportunity to meet, to scope out the scale of study that you think is appropriate, and provide you a proposal to do that.
Okay. We'll try to get something set up with you. It'll probably be virtually, but to pick our brains and see where we need to be going on that. I'm sure you're pretty busy, but over the next couple of weeks, we should be able to get that taken care of.
This would be a priority, and I would welcome the opportunity to do it.
All right. Anyone have any other questions for Brandon? All right. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Patrick, you're up, buddy.
All right. Well, fortunately, we don't have a really busy week here, 2 weeks. As far as what's on the agenda, we got a resolution for extending the emergency powers, the executive order. Between here and the last meeting, I didn't revise one, but essentially it will be the same resolution we passed before, just again, extending it until the next regular meeting.
Right.
Second.
I've got the copy that we did before. I made it copies because I figured we'd have to do this every 2 weeks anyway. So
Sure.
I made additional copies here, basically saying the same thing, extending our temporary executive powers, which would be resolution number 2020-05-02. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve such resolution to extend our temporary executive powers.
So
moved. Motion by Frixell, second by Hoopengarner. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
We don't need a roll call?
Not on a resolution, do we? Or do we need it on a resolution?
I can't
No,
hurt
ask
to do a roll
Patrick.
call. I don't recall off the top of my head on the resolution, but I'd recommend doing the roll call just to be safe.
All right. Johnson,
Yes.
Steer,
Sure, yeah.
Frixell,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
and Hoopengarner.
yes.
All right. Motion carried. Patrick, you and I have been talking quite a bit this week. I think these issues will come up a little bit later, so we'll just kind of save it for then.
Yeah, I saw that they were on the agenda elsewhere, so I was just going to leave it. Let the meeting keep moving, and then as you need me, I'm here. So.
All right. Let's go to committee reports. Finance.
The only thing that I have is I'd like to get approval for our clothing allowance for this year. We had budgeted another, same as last year, $800 in clothing allowance for this coming year.
I think that's, if I recall, it's 200 per person,
Yeah,
and we've got 3, so it'll be $600.
it'll be 600, okay.
We had 4 employees last year, so it'd be 600 this year.
Okay, I just looked at last year, so that's what I put down was 800.
Yeah. All right, we've got a motion to approve paying the clothing allowance for our street and public works people. Motion by Hoopengarner.
Second.
I think that was Frixell, got the second in there. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call it be Steer,
Yes.
Frixell,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Hoopengarner, Johnson.
Yes.
All right, all ayes, motion carried.
That's all I have.
Sanitary, storm sanitary. What do you have for us, Todd?
Basically, it looks like
You guys, you want to vote on the refurbishing of Jodan Court? I thought we had put that off, but it's on there for a vote.
I talked to Jim today about that, and he said that it's going to be at least a month before he's going to be able to do anything with it, and he suggested we didn't vote on it right now.
Okay.
With the all the rain we're having, he's constantly pumping down there trying to get the sand filter dried out enough so he can even check the sand. And he said, didn't think we need to vote on either one of the issues tonight.
Okay. Yeah, when we had talked before, we were going to wait a little bit on that. It was just on the agenda from last time, so I left it on there. The other thing on there, Todd, is the refurbishing of the filter beds. Have you talked to Jim about that?
Yeah, we talked about that before the last meeting. And as far as I know, he hasn't gotten back to me whether we need to do it right away or not.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of an update that I just.
Again, Todd,
Go ahead, Bill. Bill, go ahead.
I was talking to Jim about those, and he said there's an outfit down. I thought he said down around St. Louis, the southern part of the state, that come in and clean that sand. You don't know what it's going to cost or anything, but he said it may be cheaper to clean the sand than to try to buy new sand, because that is really expensive stuff. He says put in there. And again, he can't do anything until he gets them dried out. And right now, he is pumping daily trying to get them down.
Right. That's what he told me today. He was looking, the problem is our sand filters are clogged and they're not allowing the sewer water to go through like it's supposed to. So it's a lot more pumping in that. He made contact with somebody today instead of removing all that sand and putting in new sand, there's a company that has some luck in cleaning it. So he is checking into that. He hasn't had a chance to get any prices on replacing the sand or doing anything. So that's kind of where we are on that. So really no action to be taken tonight on that. It's just something that we're working on and will be putting on our next agenda.
All righty.
Is there anything else under sewer?
Not that I know of.
All right. Hey, Rod, what do you have for us on streets?
I know that Tom and Roger had worked on a inlet there at Chicago and Phil Gould. I've been gone for a week. I don't know if they got that finished. Do you know?
Nah,
They had it opened up, but I don't think it's finished
it's
yet.
not finished.
Okay, yeah. I know you've had a lot of rain there. They probably haven't had time to finish that yet. But anyway, they were repairing that inlet. And also, Roger had mentioned some bad areas of sidewalk there on 116.
Right.
I know that's on state right of way. I'm not sure whether the state participates in any of that repair, or if that just all falls on us.
I think the last time we checked on that, Rod, is it fell on us when we had that insurance claim when someone fell on the sidewalk. We checked into that and the state put it in, but once the road was finished, it was basically deeded over to us for maintenance. So we're the ones responsible for that sidewalk.
Okay, so they're responsible for the road, but they're not responsible for the sidewalk that's on there right away?
Correct.
I don't think it'd hurt to check back with them on it myself, just find out. Sure.
Yeah, I think I will, just to make sure.
Okay.
It doesn't seem right that it's their right of way and they're not. I mean, it's settled because their engineer didn't didn't have the contractor put it in correctly in the first place. So I know there's probably nothing we can do about that now, but anyway, I'll check into that. And so one way or another, it needs to be repaired because there's a trip hazard there.
Right.
Rod, did you ever have a chance to check on a new cement mixer for them? That one they've got, they just can't mix any quantity of cement at all, and they'd like to do a lot of patching. But the cement mixer they've got just doesn't update what they need.
Yeah. No, I haven't, but
you might get with Roger.
Okay, yeah, I'll get with him probably tomorrow sometime.
Yeah, talk to Roger on that, because they would like to have a better cement mixture if they're going to do much patching.
Okay, yep, I'll put that on my list. My retirement list.
All right.
Join the crowd, son.
Yeah. All right, let's go to police and planning.
Looks like we have a request for permit to sell fireworks, CNC fireworks. I think the application was in the packet.
Yes, we had a business contact us wanting to put up a tent to sell fireworks in our community. We informed him that he needed to fill out a permit, which he did and submitted. We let him know that he would be considered an itinerant merchant, and so he would fall underneath our itinerant merchant ordinance in reference to that. And so that's kind of where we are. We have to decide whether to issue him a permit. And this is one of the conversations that I had with Patrick in reference to our ordinance of if we decide not to issue a permit, what are the reasons we can either not issue a permit or put restrictions on the permit? And so if you look at our ordinance, to deny an application, he has to have been convicted of a crime of moral turpitude, made willful misstatements in the application, previously violated similar ordinances related to itinerant merchants, has committed a prior fraudulent act, has a record of not honoring sales, and does not qualify as a legitimate tax-paying business. Those are the requirements outlined in our ordinance for someone that wants to sell things in our village. I do not know this person that made the applications, James Slater. He lives in Peoria Heights, apparently. He has sold fireworks out of a tent in other communities. I did check with the community that he was selling fireworks at last year, which was in Mapleton. And they are not allowing him back this year. We've got somebody wanting to come in. Let me check and see who it is. Hang on a minute.
It's me, Fred.
Okay. All right. Myrna was having trouble, so she just called in on the phone. He was selling fireworks from a tent down in Mapleton last year. They did not renew his permit for this year, so he's looking for another place to sell fireworks. I did a criminal check on him, and I don't know if you can see his criminal history, but it's an extensive criminal history. But most of it, the latest that I see on here is 2006, which was a felony criminal, a felony charge at that time. A lot of it is traffic. There was some retail theft, a lot of traffic, a couple of misdemeanors for drugs, and felony for drugs. Checked with the state fire marshal's office, who gives the state permits for selling fireworks, and he says that he has had permits in the past, but he told me that I might want to check on his criminal history. So that's all I know about the subject. He has indicated that he would set up a tent in the lot, in the grassy area there at the corner of Murphy Road and 116. And he said he'd be there just a few weeks selling the fireworks.
Don't we already have somebody selling?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we have a local business in town that we issued a permit to at our last meeting.
Yeah, do we really want to have two people selling? Especially somebody with a record like his?
Well, that's one of the things that I asked our attorney is, can we restrict another business from coming into town and requesting a permit? And we can't restrict other businesses coming into town unless they meet one of these 6 criteria that is outlined in our ordinance.
Yeah, and maybe I can add to that. In this case, it's going to be one of those 6 because the fireworks, you can deny applications for itinerant merchants if they pose a threat to health, safety, morals, general welfare. So you can go on those bases as well. But because it's the same type of business we've already granted a license to, I think you'd have a tougher time making that argument that, oh, we're not going to allow fireworks, even though we've already allowed one fireworks stand. So that leads you to the other 6 outlined in the ordinance that the mayor went through. And unless we can show, now his criminal history may have a crime of moral turpitude on it. And frankly, I don't practice criminal law, so I don't have the definition of that off the top of my head. But I could probably find it pretty fast. So if you wanted to deny the application, the best leg you have to stand on is the background and the potential crime of moral turpitude, at least from what I can see. So, you know, the downside is that the ordinance also specifies once the application has been submitted, you have time to do the investigation, which is a relatively short period. And at the same time, if there's not tangible evidence, is the standard in the statute, of any of those 6 things, or a threat to the general welfare, health, safety, and morals, then you shall issue the permit. So it does create kind of an obligation to, if in the absence of those 6 things. The only way around that would be as if you had by ordinance limited the number of licenses that you would issue to itinerant merchants. For example, you might have a limit on the number of liquor licenses. You could have the same limit on itinerant merchant licenses, but unless that limit's already been created by your ordinances, then you don't really have a leg to stand on to say we're out of licenses to give if you don't have a limit. So it's really, I think, going to come down to the background here.
So with that being said,
This is the first.
Go ahead, Bill.
Since this is the first time it's come up, I suggest we table it till the next meeting and give Patrick a chance to do some checking on it. Check the ordinances out and check the legal end of it.
Yeah, happy to do that. Maybe the mayor can give me the background check. I bring it up because the time period for investigating before issuing or responding to the application is only like 24 hours in the ordinances. So I think if you push it out to the next regular meeting, you're kind of pushing the end time limits on that. That said, I mean, we're in May. If he's looking to start selling fireworks, I think you've got a little bit of leeway there, a little bit of room before he's going to start feeling the heat. But I wouldn't push it too far down the road. Happy to do looking between now and the next meeting, but just be aware of what that time frame is, at least in the ordinance. Even if it may not be a factor right now, it could be in the future.
Is this whole application?
Pardon me?
Is this his whole application?
Yes.
Where's his lease?
Yeah.
He did not have a copy of his lease yet because he didn't sign a lease because he didn't know if this application would be approved. So he hasn't signed a lease yet. The other thing is he has to get approval from the state fire marshal's office. And to get that, he needs to have a permit from us to be able to get one from the state fire marshal's office.
And also with these fireworks, Boomtastic brings them all inside of their building every night, correct?
Correct.
And if you don't, aren't you required to have somebody on site all the time?
Correct.
Okay, so what is he going to camp in a tent? Or are we going to let him set up a camper in that lot?
Well, and that was the and speaking with Mapleton, that was the problem that they had with his business at that time, is he hired other people to guard the fireworks overnight, and those employees they got complaints from citizens that these employees were walking around town and creating they were getting complaints from neighbors afraid that
no doubt
these kids were casing residences. And so that's why they are not allowing him back.
Do we allow camping in town? I mean, if there's no place for them to bring it in a building like Boomtastic does, do we have to prevent someone from just pitching a tent in a lot and sleeping there, like supposedly these people are going to have to?
Yeah. Unfortunately, our ordinance doesn't really address that.
In any event, why don't I take a little bit more of a look there? That's more background than I had before, that it was the employees that were wandering around. at all hours of the night. I mean, that could make a difference. And the idea that they would have to be in compliance with other state regulations, I think there's probably a savings issue there too, where that might be another basis. Looking at his application, I mean, if the lease is not included and it's required to be, that can be a basis for denial. But in any event, I think just based on this conversation, we've got a little bit more to go on than I initially understood from. And again, I guess I should say, the limited view I took was what grounds do we have to deny an application, not, what other, factors are involved here. It's just, if he has an application, can we say no? So why don't I maintain contact with the mayor here in the next day or two, and we'll see if we can get more information on that. But my inclination here, and at least what I'm picking up, is that this is not something we want to have happen. It's how do we go about that? In any event, I can at least review the issue and see if there's a grounds with this background. And we might be in the same boat we're in now, but there's at least more to look at here than I knew before. So we'll be in contact over the next few days. Then I think that's maybe a good plan of action moving forward.
Okay. Myrna, did you have any other comments? I think he contacted you first about this, didn't he?
No, he didn't. He had contacted the church, as I understand it, to ask if he could do it on the church lot.
Okay.
But I mean, do we have any say or consideration of if he does it that empty lot, where are people going to park or anything? I mean, if we don't know an exact location?
Yeah, that is my other concern, is
That was going to be my concern.
where customers are going to park,
I was gonna
because
say, too, where they gonna park?
yeah.
Unless he has that lot and he allows them, if there's room there, just to pull into the lot. But if he's talking about putting up a tent, bear in mind that Boomtastic also has theirs in a tent. Now I do believe, carry their fireworks into their building at night, but during the day they're set up in a tent.
Yes, they do. And I know one of the places he was looking at renting one of the sites up at the plaza to sell the fireworks out of. The difficulty with that is they have no sprinkler system, and you have people walking in and out. There's only one way in and out of that place. If there were to be a fire or something, how would people get out of that place? The other factor is if he were to go into a building like that with the governor's current orders, couldn't have more than 10 people in there at a time anyway.
Well, and we don't know what's going to happen in July. Even Boomtastic doesn't know if they're even going to get their state approval, because they don't know the situation yet.
Right.
Yeah, my biggest concern be that parking. You can't park on the highway. They can't park on that lot. There's no hard surface. Our ordinance, you got to be on a hard surface or gravel or something. And if you're pulling off the highway and parking on that corner, you're going to be right in traffic's way as you come off the highway. It's going to be a mess.
All right. Is there anyone in favor of issuing the permit?
No,
No.
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 All right. I will work with our attorney then and give him the information that I was able to come up with today, and get back with the applicant to see if he can meet all of the requirements for the application. Okay. I lost my thing. Where are we?
2 under police and planning.
Police and planning.
You're next, Caleb. That was 1. Now you're at number 2. Discussion on request.
Can you guys hear some?
What'd you say, Caleb?
Can you hear me? Am I back?
You're breaking up a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, number 2 is the chicken ordinance.
Do you know who's on your police and planning committee?
I do not, off the top of my head. Probably.
I think it's
Rob?
you, Tony, and Hoop and Garner.
Okay, so I was wrong.
Could the 3 of you by our next meeting kind of come up with some ordinances that we can look at and discuss? Just my 2 cents worth is I want to definitely outlaw roosters because
Amen.
I'll take it a step further. Pekin's ordinance I don't like because it says fowl of any kind. I don't want turkeys, geese, ducks, anything like that. I would limit it to only chickens, only hens, and put a cap of 5 or 6 per household or lot or whatever it is. I would keep it.
We've already got ducks.
Yeah, there are already ducks in the community, but I agree with you. I think, we need to put some restrictions on it. And I just started doing some checking on other communities that have ordinances, and there are a lot of them out there that do have ordinances that do allow them. So I think we can get some pretty good feedback from some of these other communities of what's working and what's not. But I think limiting the number is a good thing. I think I see no problem with even having a permit if you're going to do it so that we know who in town has them. And, making sure that there are coops for them to be in and that the coops are far enough away from neighbors' properties for that. But can you 3 on the Police and Planning Committee bring us something to look at for our next meeting?
Sure.
Yep.
All right. What's next? Oh, our village ordinances. All right. You should have received
approval of a.
Yeah, you should have received in your board packets the ordinance that would approve that American Legal Publishing that we had to redo our ordinances. We did not pass it the last time because there was a mistake on the water rates. We have got that corrected. So for us to begin using those village ordinances, which are online, you can actually go online and get to them now, and you can search, and it's a pretty slick system if you haven't tried it yet.
Does that do anything about our conflicting ones, Fred?
Yes. And as we go through them, we're still going to find a few issues that are conflicting, but we can take care of them as they come up, and we can ask our attorneys to fix those. But as we've been going through them, they have really pared them down from what we had previously. And we had those 2 different sections that were always competing with each other. It's all in one section now. As you can see the different titles that are there. If you look at how they numbered them, there's room to expand them. So This is basically an ordinance to approve and to allow us to start using these ordinances. And it would be ordinance number 20-05-02.
I make a motion we approve it.
All right, we've got a motion by Frixell and a second by Johnson. The only other discussion I have is that we have passed 2 other ordinances since they've completed that. They're not yet, but they've got them. So we passed 2 other ordinances, so they will be updating that also. Is there any other?
Will they need to be amended, Fred, because of title numbers?
No.
Okay.
Nope. These will be the title numbers, and what they do when we pass an ordinance, they will take the ordinance and it will go into a special place until it's codified into their numbering system, and then they will include that in the updates. Any other discussion on that? All right, hearing none, got the motion to approve ordinance number 20-05-02. And 1, 2, 3, I think, I forget where we are. Anybody remember? Are we at Gates? Frixell?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Garner? Steer? All right, I think we got everybody. Motion carried. All right, so we will, we can begin using those ordinances that are online now. And we'll put them on our website. Anything else you got for us, Caleb?
No, that's it.
All right. Water.
I had 2 checks in the amount of $200 that were approved out of the water escrow account. And then I got a call. I forgot to get it put on the agenda. I just wanted to bring it to the board. Ron Gully gave me a call and wanted to know about his strip mall residents or customers. He is getting billed currently for all those water meters instead of it going to the customers. And he wanted to know if there was a way that we could, have those start going to the individual businesses there in the strip mall. And he was like, if they only have one, there's only one shut off unless you go in and shut the meter off. They each don't have their own individual shut off. So, of course, Ron said, he would, allow us to go in and shut it off. So, and then I think the same way with the duplex that he has, same way. I really don't want to do it on the duplex because I know it's hard to get in there, and Ron's the only one that has legal right to get in there. We don't. And I know Jim's had problems in there before. And so I just wanted to bring the strip mall up. I really don't see us doing it, but I wanted to bring it to the whole board just so they know what Ron was asking.
Yeah. I think we've had this discussion in the past. I know that it's kind of like the apartments there at the end of Runkle. They're kind of in the same situation. And we've had that discussion in the past. Unless he wants to replumb them and so that each of them have their own shut off and their own meter, I think they've still got to go with the 1 meter.
Yeah. And then he was wanting to know, if they go to because I guess they have individual meters at those right now.
Yeah.
So he was wanting to know, what about just putting in 1 meter then for the whole building? If he's gonna, be paying all the water for that whole building.
Yeah, I think if he wants to do that and just do 1 meter, he can do that, and then he'd have to charge his customers whatever. He had to work that out with his customers. But if he wants to put in 1 meter, then he'd only get 1 meter charge, and then he would be responsible for the whole bill.
Right. Okay.
All righty. Anything else underwater?
That's it.
Buildings and grounds.
Nothing.
All right. Our cleaning person has started. They've already been up here working. Place looks nice. Okay. Okay. Going down to other business. Update on the COVID-19 response. You guys are following it just like I am. We are a part of the Heart of Illinois plan. I've been working with the other mayors in the Central Illinois region trying to encourage the governor to open up. He has not responded to us yet, but we are still trying. Some of the communities are going ahead and opening up. As you've heard, the governor has threatened to withhold funds from them if they go against his orders. There is a meeting tomorrow in Springfield, I think it is tomorrow, the 20th, that will be trying to extend his, or trying to add enforcement guidelines to his executive orders. Not sure where that's going to go, but that's about all we know. Anyone have any questions about that? Or any suggestions on what we as a community should be doing? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Rebuild Illinois Public Infrastructure. I think we've already talked about that. Like I said, there's a lot of money out there. I've been trying to keep up with that. I've been on a couple of webinars trying to figure out what we can do. I've been in contact with the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission to see if they would help us with some of these grant applications and that. And I think it would be very difficult for us to even be able to apply for them. Only update I have for you on the coffee can project is it's my understanding that they have come to an agreement on the purchase of that other residence. And so that should be moving forward in the future. The EMS automation services, that's the robotics plant. The subject who owned that building has finally moved out, and so they are moving their stuff in, and they plan to be up and running hopefully by the end of the month. They plan to be up and running. Next steps on the BDD boundaries and the TIF boundaries. Farnsworth has done a great job for us. They've got, just got an email this afternoon that they've got the TIF boundaries all done and submitted to Jacob and Klein. They've got a little bit more work on the BDD boundaries, but they should have that shortly also. So that is moving forward. Once that is all submitted, then we will Jacob and Klein will be getting with us on the next steps for that. Discussion on replacing the village administrator. At the last time, I asked you guys to consider the different possibilities of what we're going, how we're going to move forward. I'm opening this up for discussion of where we are and how we want to move forward.
Well, I think that we should go ahead and look at doing it because we had somebody who was in there. Kyle knew, you know, how to get us going, get us contact. We'd have somebody there full time, well, part full time. There in the office that could handle issues. You know, would be able to make contacts with people that we need to, you know, try to do grants, or if they have grant writing experience, that would be a plus too. So I say we go forth and try to get another village administrator.
Anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, I agree. We should look for another administrator. I believe it's going to have to be somebody part-time. We're not going to get anybody at the quality that Kyle was for that kind of money again. So I think we're going to have to do somebody part-time, maybe somebody that's retired, wants to work some part-time, or I mean, it'd be nice to have full-time, but we're not going to get that quality for that kind of money.
Right. I think if we hired somebody full-time, we're going to end up paying 2 to 3 times more than what we've got budgeted for to get somebody like that, and especially somebody with that kind of experience, and we offer no benefit. You know, there's no insurance packet, there's no incentive for them really, except for wanting to do the job. So I think full-time's probably definitely out of the question.
Do we want to go ahead and use the same job description that we had for Kyle and just advertise it and see what we come up with?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else have any other comments?
Does anybody know of anyone who's interested that maybe is from the area?
Can definitely ask around. Put out some feelers with some of the people we work with.
Yeah. There's some of the communities are going through some difficult financial times, and they are laying off some people, so there might be an opportunity where some of these communities, I know Peoria is laying off, Peoria County's laying off, Pekin's laying off. A number of these communities are cutting back, so there might be an opportunity where, similar to Kyle, we are able to pick up somebody. It may not be a long-term solution, but it will at least be someone that has some experience.
That sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Seeing no other ideas, we will go ahead and advertise. We'll put it in the Gazette and in the Shopper. Should we put it in the Journal Star or not?
I think we should.
Sure, why not?
Trying to get more coverage there.
All right. We'll put it in those 3 papers and see if we get any interest in it. All right, FG, where are we? Update on ordinance letters sent. We've issued 20 ordinance violations. 15 of them have been corrected. 2 of them have been fined, and 3 are in process. So we are still issuing letters in ordinance violations. Any questions on that? Update on communication with businesses. Again, I've been trying to keep in contact with our businesses. We've had a couple of them asking if they can open up. I've indicated that we are complying with the governor's orders, and if they're not an essential business, they're not able to open up. I think there might be some businesses that will open up anyway, but it's on them. Got a letter, we put it in your packet there, of our electrical aggregation is coming up for renewal. I think it was a 3-year the last time. I don't know what terms they're going to come up with this time, but they are putting it out for bid in June. And so I think you got the letter on the electrical aggregation. Yeah. They're wanting to know if they're proposing the week of June 8th through the 12th for potential bid dates. I would imagine at our next meeting, I'll probably have a put on our agenda resolution that would allow the mayor and the attorney to sign any electrical aggregation agreements at that time. I think that's what we did the last time we did it, because once they open the bids, we've got to act on it right away. So we'll have that on the agenda for the next meeting. 2 other things. Something that just came up today, and we've talked about this in the past, and this is in reference to the property on Lakeshore Drive 314, I think it is, the Duryea property. As you recall, back in 2002, I think, when we were having sewer backup issues in residences, we passed because of the EPA getting on us about that, we came up with a way to work with homeowners who were having sewer backups, where we would pay half the cost to alleviate the sewer backups. And at that time, we did that with the Duryea property there on Lakeshore Drive. We installed a valve in his sewer line because his sewer is even with the road, or anyway, it backs up whenever we get a lot of heavy rain. We installed a valve, or he installed the valve. We purchased the valve, I think is how that one went. We purchased the valve. He had a plumber install it in his line, that when water starts backing up, he can shut that valve off and keep the water from the sewer main from getting into his house. The only problem with that is he can't use his sewer during that time. But it has worked fine for a while. That valve is no longer working. And just recently he started experiencing some problems again. Brandon, I know we talked about this before, and we were trying to figure out a way to do whether we enter into another agreement and buy another valve and have him install it like we did the last time, or if there is a different type of fix. We have been very lucky. He has been very good to work with and has not made any complaints to the EPA in that. As I was talking with Jim about this today, we could be on the hook if we don't mitigate this and help him out here some way. If the EPA gets wind of the problems that he's having, village could be on the hook for a lot of damage. So one of the things that we talked about, and we talked about this in the past, and Brandon can weigh in on this, is the possibility of putting in an ejector pump on that property that would then lift up his sewer and put it in at a higher level than what his sewer presently is. That's probably something that we would have to bear the cost of. Brandon, would you like to weigh in on that, or?
Yeah, boy, I do recall vaguely us looking at this a couple of times in the past, but boy, I don't have any of that in front of me, and I would want to remember, go back through what we did. I know we've been out there kicking the tires and talking with folks, but we haven't done anything. Do I recall correctly? We've talked about it, but we haven't actually done anything, have we?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. And I don't know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now, we've been lucky that it hasn't become an issue, but with all this rain that we've been getting here lately,
Sure.
He started having an issue again.
Right. And so I don't know why action wasn't taken. If it was a budgetary thing or it wasn't critical. But certainly I can go dig up the options that we looked at. I think we looked at a couple things, some costs and some, how much of a big deal is it? Because I know there were some concerns about tearing up his yard as well. But I can get smart about that, and revisit that and work with Jim to propose a solution with some costs if you'd like.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to weigh in on that and have any ideas of what else we can do?
Yeah, I thought we had already agreed that we were going to have some kind of lift pump or something put in there and pay for some of the cost. I don't know whatever happened, why that ever did get done.
Yeah, I think the last discussion that we had on this, we were going to work with Mr. Duryea to try to figure out if we could just replace that valve. And we were running into problems because we couldn't remember. We didn't have records on the type of valve it was, and we basically dropped the ball. We didn't, because there wasn't an urgent need. It kind of fell through the cracks, and he didn't complain about it anymore, and we didn't follow up on it.
I thought we had Chris Dillon come out and give us a price on a pump and everything, putting a system in.
I think he did. We just didn't do it. We just didn't do it.
Yeah, and I remember what Rod did, that we talked about sharing cost of. So I know one option Chris brought up was like $6,000, another was $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
Our guys were put in the sewer part.
Mm-hmm.
Chris would only put in the pump and the stuff in the house, and we went back and forth quite a bit and had a bunch of options laid out.
Right.
And I thought we maybe even put it to him. Well, I don't know. I remember we had all those options, but I can't remember where we left it at after that.
Yeah, I can't either.
I talked to him about this some time ago, and I believe, if I remember correctly, said that he had signed the agreement and given it back to us, and we had never responded back to him.
Yeah, I thought we'd agreed to. I'm with Rod. I thought we had something in place.
But it just never, like I said, that was his understanding, that he had signed it and given it back to us, but then he never heard anything more. But like Fred said, since the present one was working, he just didn't complain. But I don't think it was ever anything done.
Yeah, well, there definitely has not been anything done. I know we did meet with him. I know we talked with him about different options. And like I said, he's very good to work with. He's been very good to us. But if he sells that house, we could wind up with someone that would really take us to task on this. So we need.
Well, who would have written the agreement? Would it have been the attorney or?
Right, there is an agreement. We found that agreement, but I don't remember ever pursuing it after that. I know we were able to locate the agreement because I think Brandon found it for us because it was in a response to the EPA that we had to make, and I think he had a copy of what we said we would do.
What was
Okay,
it?
but not specific with him, but just the boilerplate agreement, right?
Right.
Because he thought he had signed one.
Well, he did years ago.
This would only be like a year or two ago. I thought that. Yeah, we had Dylan come in.
In the last 2 years.
Yeah, because I swore we're going to have our guys do the work on the main. Dylan was going to do the work in the house to make it cheaper and put the stuff in there. And then we were going to split some costs that we put in.
Yeah. I'll have to go back and see where that left, but it fell through the cracks. No one ever followed up on it.
Okay.
And I think it's been a lot longer than we realized.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was never followed up on.
Well, because for one thing, I just went through all of 2019 ordinances, or excuse me, minutes today on another project, and there was nothing in 19. So it had to be at least in 18 or prior.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
So, all right. Well, we will be working on that and following up. And I think, Brandon, if you can check your files, I think you were the one that had the most complete files for us.
Yeah, I'm doing what I can remotely, and I'll do certainly more tomorrow.
All right. Thanks.
You're essential, Brandon. You can go in.
Oh, I've been going in. I've been going in.
I give you permission. Just let your bosses know.
but I'm not there now.
Oh.
All right. The only other thing I've got, and then I don't know, Myrna, do you have any correspondence for us?
No, because I haven't written it yet.
Okay. The only other thing I've got is, I don't know if anybody saw it, but we did get the signs up for the graduates. Got that all taken care of.
I've heard good comments on those too from people that's seen them.
Good. Yeah. Our next board meeting's June 2nd. Tony, go ahead.
I'm not sure if Lori got it back yet, if Bill has done anything with it, but he sent me an email and I've been working a lot of hours. But I told him to get a hold of the village about sending back the teed up for the troops check for this year. We have canceled the golf outing. So I don't know if that check comes back to the board or has to be approved of refund or whatever. But yeah, Bill was talking about getting that returned to the village.
All right. Anyone else have anything? Seeing none, hopefully, well, I don't know if the governor's going to let us meet again, ever again or not, who knows? But hopefully by our June 2nd meeting, we'll be able to all meet around the horseshoe here and see y'all face to face.
What's the limit on the size of gatherings right now?
10.
Oh, I was gonna say we could just go outside and put our chairs 6 feet apart and stop this nonsense on the internet.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, seeing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much for attending.
Stay safe.
See ya.
Bye-bye.